As we are witnessing our Black men being murdered in the streets, very rarely do we talk about the women who are left behind, grief-stricken and shattered. George Floyd has a 6-year-old daughter, a sister, a girlfriend. Ahmaud Arbery, a mother, a sister. Both men have countless heartbroken women, aunts, cousins, friends in their lives who love them. We are dedicating this Red Table Talk to how gun violence affects women. And we're starting the conversation with my beautiful little sis, Lauren London, to talk about the traumas of gun violence and how she's helping other women through loss and grief. Lauren lost her life partner, visionary and artist Nipsey Hussle, when he was gunned down outside his LA clothing store. Lauren had been in a relationship with Nip for 6 years. They share a son together.
My pain is for my 2-year-old that probably won't remember how much his dad loved him.
Since Nipsey's passing, Lauren has remained committed to keeping his legacy alive.
Grief is the final act of love. I'm so grateful that I had you, and until we meet again, the marathon continues.
Here we are.
Here we go.
Yes. Lauren.
Hi.
Mama, thank you. So you've lost someone who is very close to you, who's a public figure, and you're a public figure, and having to go out into the world. What can people do to be helpful?
I love to meet people that Nip has like really inspired.
Yeah.
Because it feels like he's still here,
Yeah.
even though he is in a way.
Yeah.
But it's like his purpose that was completely outside of any of us. His purpose is he's touching people still. And
Yeah.
I find that when I run into people that tell me how he's changed their life, what they're doing with their life right now, like it fills me up.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, he would have loved to hear that, you know? And it fills me up. And when my kids are there, my kids hear it, they're like proud, like, man, you know? Those are always very special moments.
What would be some of the things you could offer to other people who are mourning the loss of a significant other, you know, that's been lost?
For me, what's really been important is like connecting with God. And that's been a struggle because something horrible happens in your eyes and you're like, how God, you know? And knowing that there is life after this life.
Yeah.
It's not easy. I don't always wake up on the enlightened side of the bed, you know?
Right.
And the days that I don't, I let myself because I'm human.
Right.
And, you know, I'm not always going to feel so, I'm going to be okay. I don't. And that's okay, too.
Right.
So I let myself be human. I'm gentle with myself. And I find things that matter. And so I try to live with a purpose. You know, when I'm having a bad day, I meditate. I go within.
Right. What about your community, like your network of family and friends?
I think it's important for people that love you to remind you on who you are. Because trauma and violence and just life can make you feel down.
Yeah.
So to have people that love you that remind you, like, no, you know, you matter and that you'll be okay and that you can do this.
Right.
That's been very important for me. People that see me, like my heart to be around me is really important. And it's been even outside of my family and like the people that I know personally, just love.
Got it.
Has been very helpful.
So you're raising 2 Black boys. As a mother, like what are some of your precautions or like some of your messaging?
What I instill in them is more about the police.
Got it.
How to handle yourself when you get pulled over.
Right.
That's more of my
education.
Yes, protecting them being Black men in America.
When would you say was the first time that you can remember that you were affected by gun violence?
Just growing up in LA, in the area that I was around, like just in high school, a lot of the boys were in gangs, and I just remember that a lot of our friends that by summertime, you know, they were gone. They had transitioned from gun violence. So you kind of got a little bit, I don't want to say numb, but used to hearing it.
Yeah. I think for me, it was kind of like middle school, high school. You know, it just became, unfortunately, like a norm.
But even going to like a party in high school, you know.
You were like putting your life on the line.
And you always like walked in, you knew where the exit was. Because you knew at any time, you know.
Something could jump off.
Something can happen.
Especially house parties.
That's traumatizing to be 16 years old, having to be on guard when you go into a party.
You just get used to figuring out how to keep yourself safe in these environments. And I try to tell people all the time, it's like, most of us grow up in war zones. And I did not even really realize that until my life changed, when I started to look at how my kids were growing up versus me. And then me trying to train them in a way, I was like, but no, they don't, that's not their reality. They don't have to worry about
they don't
that.
Have to have that guard up. One of my best friends, her first time, you know, she was 4 years old, 4 or 5, and her uncle got shot and killed in front of her on the porch.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And so she carries that.
I'm so grateful for you because I wouldn't have known about Erica Ford without you.
I was doing an event with Puma in New York.
Okay.
And a part of the event was that we were going to donate some money and clothes to an organization.
Okay.
And a friend of mine brought up Erica, and I go do some research, and like the first 5 seconds, I was like, this is it. They were practicing the same ideas and practices that I do in my everyday life. I was able to go and talk to the girls. It was a group of girls that were affected from gun violence. They lost fathers, brothers, and they're traumatized by that. We could all relate together. We were all grounded and solid together by gun violence.
Absolutely. Could you feel the medicine of you actually being there with them and being able to share your process of healing?
Oh, man. They healed me in a lot of ways because, you know, I think trauma feels so lonely.
Yeah.
And just in talking to them, they gave me so much more than I feel like I gave to them. They gave me just their stories and just their, like, rawness.
Right.
And it made me not feel so alone. And it was very magical.
Right.
It was magical. It was very healing. It's like, you know, this is what you're supposed to do.
I was like, Nip's super proud.
He would have loved her.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no.
Thank you.
I love you.
I love you too.
You know what? The interview with Lauren was so moving, and I could really, really relate to what she was saying because we have family members that are going through trauma right now.
Yeah.
And one of the things that she said that was so important to me and really clicked in my head was trauma feels so lonely.
Yeah.
That was really important for me to hear because if you haven't been through it, if you're not actually going through it, you really don't know what that feels like.
Right.
Yeah. And as we all are trying to understand and help and be there, we don't know what the other person is really feeling.
Yeah. I think sometimes it's just great to just show that you're there.
Yeah.
So, as Lauren shared, one of the women she is most inspired by is Erica Ford. Erica has devoted her life to ending gun violence and created the Peace Mobile, a big orange bus she turned into a mobile trauma unit. Erica Ford is a woman on a mission.
So what's going on?
Day and night, she and her team risk their lives to save lives.
Shots fired coming from 1244 Village.
Whenever there's a shooting or violence, her Peace Bus is on the scene to intervene.
Going into these hot spots, mediating conflict. When we look at the number of mothers who've lost their sons to gun violence in America, it is horrific.
Erica also started a camp for at-risk youth dealing with trauma and anger.
That's language. Let me tell you what we're not gonna have. No. Let me tell you what we not. No.
As always, Erica keeps the peace.
What we not gonna have is you being disrespectful, trying to go past and do anything inside here. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
Our mission to provide young people with the tools that they need to change their life. Real people are getting killed. Let's make peace in these streets. Stop the violence.
let me start by saying I love your hair. Powerful, powerful.
Hand clap to you.
Yes.
Yeah, for real, because you are in it, right?
Facts.
Can you explain how gun violence affects women?
First, the trauma of losing your soulmate, right?
Yeah.
And then having to raise your children. And I see women stop living. I see them losing their lives from a broken heart. And so we teach them how to move past that pain. If you help the mother heal, you help save the family. You help change the family. You help change generations. You help change the world. We work for the people who are pulling the trigger, and we work for the people who are the victims. We got to work with everybody because they're all victims of generational trauma, 100%. You know?
So how did you come up with this idea of the Peace Bus?
We want to pull up with peace, you know? And we want peace to flood the streets in a way that it becomes a constant in your mind. And so you see it, you live it, you believe it, subliminally it becomes part of you. And so you can't overlook that big orange bus. Yes. And actually, I was Googling tour buses and saw Will's tour bus. And was like, that's the bus I want. You know?
That's amazing.
And use that as a symbol to, you know,
of
course.
We got to get you one of those. We got to get you one of those.
Yo, that's fire.
Yes.
You know, we need to have a mobile trauma unit. We pull up on situations just like the police pulls up with their, you know, unit.
Right.
It has to start in the streets first.
Yeah. You know, violence is a disease.
Real talk.
When you look at the disease of violence, it impacts those around you.
One of the ways Erica makes peace is by bringing together face-to-face former gang members and mothers whose children have been victims of gun violence.
We're just gonna sit right here.
Primo grew up on these streets. In and out of gangs and jail, he's been shot twice. Now Erica's trying to help him break free from the cycle of violence, but it's not easy.
I walk around with these demons every day of wanting to do certain things to certain people. I'm not even gonna lie to you. Do you know what it's like to have to watch my back to go to the corner store? Do you know what it's like to tell my daughter we're not going down that block? I lost my whole life from these streets. I lost my family to these streets.
And I hear you, and I feel your pain, right? But where do we go? Because if we don't change the trajectory, then it's just gonna be more people dying.
To give Primo a wake-up call, she introduces him to a grief-stricken mother. Norlene's son was shot 5 times at point-blank range.
I wanted him to hear your story because we were having a conversation just about the impact of gun violence and gang violence on mothers and women.
It's not good. You know, my son, Mike, he's got shot August 30th multiple times. I'm still hurting. I don't know if my son is gonna walk again. You have a mother. You don't want to put your mother through that. You don't have to prove anything to no one. And I understand that you have to strive, struggle, and survive, but not with a gun.
Facts.
Not with a gun.
Facts.
The same time that your son was shot, I lost 3 friends in the same day.
Jesus.
And I probably would have thought a little bit more about certain things if I would have had a conversation with a mother like you. Seeing her pain helped me realize what changes I need to make. I appreciate it.
Powerful.
They never stop to think about the
consequences.
and the people that are left behind.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say to all the people watching how we can help stop gun violence?
We got to change the culture of how we relate to each other. You know, we got to change the culture.
Say it again,
And
Erica.
so that's what people can do. Like, stop making that stupidness cool. Like, yo.
Even in the language, how we speak to each other.
Yes.
You know, it's so important.
I think I get overwhelmed because there's so much violence and trauma in the world.
There's a lot that happens with those 1 bullets, you know, that no one ever thinks about, you know. No one ever goes down that long line of where this bullet is going to end up and the impact that it's going to have on so many people.
It is like one step at a time, one day at a time. Like, you can't tackle the whole...
The marathon continues, right?
Yes,
And so we are the marathon, you know?
Thank you for your work.
Yeah,
Like for
so
real.
inspiring.
Thank you.
Every single month, an average of 52 women are shot and killed by an intimate partner. Nearly 1 million women alive today have reported being shot. The beautiful Breonna Taylor was struck by 8 bullets while sleeping in her own home. And 4.5 million women report being threatened by a gun. But for Rain Stipik, she never even saw it coming. Rain loved to dance from the time she was a toddler all the way to adulthood. But that all changed one night when an unidentified gunman fired over 20 bullets into her car. She had been shot in the back 8 times with less than a 5% chance to live.
They really didn't expect her to live, and they replaced all of her blood 5 times in the first 6 hours or so.
But then her heart stopped. She was dead for a full minute. Doctors were able to bring Rain back to life, but said she would never walk or dance again. Ooh, all right. We have Rain here with us today. Rain, come join the table. Wow. Wow.
Do a little twirl for you. Hi, guys.
Yeah, have a seat.
Wow, from someone who they didn't expect to even survive.
Wow.
And you come out with a twirl.
You came out with a twirl.
Live life with a twirl, girl. Don't stand still. Love it.
So you have made a miraculous recovery.
Like, that's like a miracle.
Yeah, I mean, I am a medical miracle. That's doctors tell me a 5% chance to live, and I am here walking, talking, eating, breathing with you today.
And twirling.
And twirling.
How many surgeries did you have?
In that first 24 hours, it was 14. They took my left kidney, my spleen, my appendix, 20 feet of small intestine, colon, and bowel. There was holes in my liver, holes in my stomach. They took a third of my pancreas, and my back was fractured at L3 and L5. And after that, the first week was really touch and go. They weren't sure if I was going to wake up or not. And all of a sudden, one of my nurses told my family she got into work that morning, and I was sitting up, breathing, smiling, talking. It was a long road. I mean, don't kid yourself. There was a point in time where I couldn't even hold a toothbrush. It was a long effort. I'm finally getting back to, I'm a dancer by trade, so I'm getting back to teaching and dancing again.
And they never figured out...
They had 2 men in custody for a while, but it's something that they currently just speculate that it was a random gang initiation because they didn't take the car, they didn't rob us, we didn't see who it was.
The fact that the shooting was just completely random, like, how do you wrap your mind around that? Because then in my mind, I'm like, then how am I safe?
Well, and as a woman, you were conditioned to look over your shoulder when you're walking down the street. You're conditioned to maybe that car drove by 2 times.
It's true.
Don't walk your dog at night. There's things that we are already dealing with as women as it is. So I know for myself, I'm not as trustworthy of people in everyday situations anymore because it was so random. And who would have thought that just this random night, I was going to get shot in the back 8 times.
Did the person that you were with, they survived?
Yes. He had a bullet go through his hand and his shoulder, and one actually went through my back into his leg.
Wow, so you really got the brunt of it.
Yes, I was like a human shield.
Wow. I feel like I'm sitting here literally with a miracle.
Yeah, honestly. And just how, like, you're just radiant. Like, you're smiling. You have this air about you that is just so amazing.
I have to say it was the support that I had. Like, my sister literally slept in the hospital with me 80 some odd days out of the 94 days I was there. Yeah. She was playing chakra music, and we were doing worded meditations and things while I was lying in the hospital bed.
Yeah.
You posted a really empowering photo of yourself on social media. What was your motivation for that?
The photo that I posted, it started out, honestly, that this is what people need to see. I'm still me. I really am.
Yeah.
I'm happy. I'm confident. I'm going to continue to push forward with what I'm doing. And if I can give that back to people and show them, give them a motivation. I have strangers that message me and just to say thank you for sharing and for being inspiring.
Yes.
And there was plenty of days that I was struggling, that I would just cry in defeat because how did this happen to me?
Right.
Like what happened that this is what became my normal? And I don't want that for anybody else ever.
Yeah.
No one should have to experience this. What my family and I have been through, it's unfathomable.
Right.
And there's no actual words that can describe this process of mourning and grieving, because you are mourning this life that you once had and grieving through this.
What would be the message that you would give other people to help them keep going?
I just want to tell them there's gonna be bad days. And I want people to understand that if you can accept the fact that there are bad days, that also means that you're gonna have good ones.
Yeah.
And once you have a good one, you're alive to have a good one. Take it one day at a time, 1 second, 1 minute, 1 hour, 1 day.
Right.
Because if everything can change in an instant like it did, what can happen in 24 hours? You just don't, anything's possible.
You better preach. Give us a word today.
Yes.
I'm just flabbergasted. I mean,
Yeah, and I mean, as a young, beautiful woman to go through this.
but really find your power.
Power,
within it.
yes. Your strength.
Yeah,
Yes.
find
Absolutely.
your
Superhero origin story.
That's, my doctors were calling me the woman of steel in the hospital because I kept going.
You know,
Breathtaking.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being here with
Thank you
us
for
today.
having me.
Every 16 hours, a woman is killed by her current or former intimate partner. An abuser's access to firearms increases the risk of homicide by at least 400%. Danny Robinson knows this all too well. Danny was shot 5 times at point-blank range by her ex-boyfriend and lived to tell about it.
Tell us what happened, Danny.
I never, ever thought that I would ever be a victim of gun violence. You know, I mean, I was shot 5 times. I was with a man for about 6 years, and throughout our relationship, there were some signs that he was a little controlling, he was possessive, verbally abused me, emotionally abused me, and I had 2 daughters with him, and I finally left him. I decided I was done with him. I wasn't going to have him control me anymore. He had made this comment to me, and he said something to the fact that he was going to hurt me with a gun. I said, "What are you saying, that you're going to kill me? You can't get a gun." And he said, "Well, you'd be surprised what you can find on the street." And when he said that to me, I knew that something was wrong. I called the police department, and they said, "Well, there's nothing we can do about it." And I told my sisters, I said, "I'm scared." And they're, "Oh, no, he's just trying to scare you." I'm like, no, this is different.
Right.
This is really different. So I went and I got a restraining order. And I didn't hear from him for a couple weeks. And I drove home and I pulled up in the driveway and I was getting out of my car. And all of a sudden, I just felt this huge, like breeze just blow me over. And it was him. And I had my daughters in the back of the car and they were still in their car seats. And I said, "What are you doing here?" And he told me that we needed to have a conversation. And I said, "I'm not going anywhere with you." I saw my grandfather in the house getting ready for dinner. I decided that I needed to get away from the house so he would not hurt my grandfather or my daughters. And I walked a few houses down with him. And all of a sudden, there was this white van. And he opened it up. I just remember hearing that sound of the van, the rolling of the door. Exactly. And he tried to pull me into the van. And at that moment, I screamed and I started to fight back. And he was holding me. And I was shot 2 times. And from there, I fell on the ground. I fell on my back. And he stood over me. And he shot me 3 more times, point blank, in my stomach. I went to the hospital. I was in intensive care for about 3 days while he was on the run. My focus was about living for my daughters. Like when I was on the ground and I was burning and I smelled that, I was going to live for my girls.
So where's your ex now?
He's in state prison. He got 25 years. He didn't get a life sentence. He is getting out in 2024. So he's only going to be serving about 21 years.
Got it.
And that's soon.
How does that make you feel?
Yeah.
I feel strong. I'm not afraid of him. I do have a lifetime restraining order on him.
Good for you.
He does still send my daughters letters. He's tried to have a relationship with my daughters. I mean, of course, I struggle with a lot of You know, I hear the slam of a rolling door. I remember smelling the bullets and my flesh. And so when I there's a fire, I'm like, oh, it triggers that. So I do have my, you know, everyday PST issues that come up.
But it's important that you're not living your life in fear.
Absolutely not. Nope.
Yeah.
I am not doing that.
Do you talk to your daughters about warning signs in relationships?
Absolutely. I've taught them nobody talks down to you. They're to respect you.
What would be some of the advice that you would give women who may be in relationships that aren't healthy or even dangerous?
Listen to your gut.
Got it.
Listen to your woman's intuition.
That's real talk.
Because it is always right on, but you have to listen to it.
Yeah. Sometimes you think, oh, I'm being extreme, or, you know, he would never. It's just like, it doesn't matter. Right.
Exactly.
Just listen to that one. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I hope that I can make a difference. And it's just such an epidemic.
Right.
Yeah.
Today, I really wanted to take the time to really reflect on how women from all walks of life are affected by gun violence and how we're affected by gun violence.
Right. It's not just in like a certain demographic or a certain, it is everywhere.
Everywhere. Yeah. That is really apparent now.
Which is why gun control is so important. It's just amazing to me that we can't, you know,
Seem to
it's
get it
frustrating.
together.
Well, we can't keep waiting for the world to change. Like, we have to make the change.
We need to make the change.
Yeah.
What a red table.
Yes.
What a red table.
Hey, RTT family. Join our Red Table Talk group on Facebook to become part of the conversation. And be sure to follow the show page to catch up on all our episodes.